February 17th, 2016. Poseidon, the Bobcat rescue. I would have thought that time had stood still because Jamie was poised, net in the air, leaning impossibly into space between us on one foot, and she had stopped moving. Interns, Martin and Devin, had also stopped mid-step with her. You could hear a pin drop into the high grass that was up past our knees and the freezing cold water that was up over our ankles. It was like how a live feed just freezes, but you aren't sure if the connection has died or if it has just gone very, very still. My racing heart told me that time hadn't stopped, but everything around the center attraction had. At the center of this bizarre scene was a bobcat who had been seen vomiting on the side of the road. A cat vomiting is hardly an emergency situation, and certainly not one you would drive 2 hours to witness, but this one seemed to have extenuating circumstances. Around 6 p.m., a call came in from a Port Charlotte woman named Sandy, who said she had been on her way to the ER regarding her mother and had seen a bobcat vomiting on the side of the road. When asked to identify the cat, what the cat looked like, as most people don't have any idea what a bobcat looks like, she said, "Well, it looks like a bobcat." Jamie asked what a bobcat looked like to Sandy, and she said it had a 6-inch long tail and was half the size of a German Shepherd dog. Before driving 4 hours round trip, Jamie asked for a cell phone photo, but the woman was too busy with her mother and the hospital. She said her husband had taken some video, but Jamie wasn't sure they'd be willing to pay the data transfer rate to send it. I queried our database and found 103 people in Port Charlotte. I emailed and asked if any of them would drive to the approximated address of the Ogden Street and tell me if there was really a bobcat there. Over the next few hours, 11 people responded, and several drove to the scene. All but 2 said there was no bobcat to be seen. Meanwhile, the caller did get a photo and did send the video, but we were already on our way. 2 of the people we emailed said they saw the bobcat and that they were certain they could wrestle him into a carrier, but Jamie convinced them not to try, as the bobcat could hurt them or run off and be impossible for us to find and help. 2 hours seemed like 2 days, but Jamie used the time to prepare our interns for what was to come. I'm always surprised that after dealing with bobcats and knowing how mean they can be, that when we say we need volunteers to help rescue one in the wild, they are so eager and fearless to help. Even when answering the question, "What's the worst you've ever been hurt rescuing a bobcat?" by saying, "I haven't had to peel one off my face yet," they are still keen to give it a shot. As we pulled onto the scene, Sandy's husband was dutifully keeping an eye on the bobcat. He brought us up to speed with important facts like how long the cat had been sitting there, 5 hours by this time, how close he had been able to get without the bobcat running, about 10 feet, and he gave us the lowdown on bobcats in the area and how they get along with the domestic cats. He and I both held flashlights on the bobcat's face so that Jamie, Martin, and Devin could circle around behind him and on the other side that was open to the road. The last thing you ever want to do in a bobcat rescue is chase the wounded cat into the path of another car. The bobcat was on a dry patch of ground, surrounded by the cold water and knee-high sawgrass. Jamie asked me to make little sounds with my feet. Each time he tensed as if he was going to bolt, to divert his attention away from the approaching captors. He looked pretty washed up, like he had given up and was just waiting to die. He smelled like he had been dead for 3 days. It was gaggingly wretched to breathe the air surrounding him. Despite that, though, you could tell that he could make a break for it if he was going to give it a try. And when Jamie, Devin, and Martin had frozen in mid-step, that's when Jamie, Devin, and Martin had frozen in mid-step. In a motion too quick for me to see, and just a fraction of a second too quick for the bobcat to respond, Jamie's net was down over him. He leapt against it and thrashed wildly, but Devin and Martin came down with their nets with amazing accuracy and speed. Netted? Check. In the carrier? Not yet. But Jamie had described how it would need to go. and ran the interns through it one more time to make sure they knew where their nets had to be and what to do if he managed to slip free during the transfer from the net to the carrier. Given the fact that he looked to be covered in mange and thoroughly chewed up by some animal, she warned them again not to touch him, no matter what. You would think that the team had done this together for years, it went so smoothly. The husband and the wife who had originally called in the incident were now both standing there and nearly broke into applause over the successful capture. Now for the 2-hour drive back to Big Cat Rescue, where Dr. Justin would be done with Mrs. Claus and waiting for the Bobcat, who was soon to be named Poseidon. Dr. Justin Borstein examines Poseidon Bobcat. X-rays didn't show any broken bones. As suspected, the Bobcat was covered in mange and had been beaten up by another animal. His face is oozing from the mange infestation. He has a BB under the skin, indicating that someone shot at him. He has a belly full of bones, and he may have had trouble passing them as he is so dehydrated. His face and elbow have been bitten pretty badly. We have to treat the handling of him as if he has rabies, since we don't know what bit him. He's getting 400 mLs of sub-Q fluids, treatment for the parasites, a long-acting antibiotic, and pain meds. 6 injections. No broken bones. Poseidon is recovering in our office because the hospital is full.